Hello viewers, welcome to the Information Literacy class. In this module, we are going to look at how to access and retrieve information from online sources. We began this course with face-to-face interactions in which we looked at various aspects of online information and how we interact with computer systems to be able to retrieve, use, and share such information. I'm your electronic resources librarian. You can always contact me through my email, fhibo@uhas.edu.gh, or via WhatsApp through the contact provided. Also, I encourage you strongly to visit the library website, where we have populated a lot of resources through the OPAC, that is Online Public Access Catalog, and also particularly through the e-resources channels. Now, I would like us to just recap what we have done in our few weeks of face-to-face encounter, setting the objectives for this class, and also the learning outcomes, and progress through our early definitions, looking at what information and information processing cycle or information systems are. I believe that by this time you have had access to most of the videos and other files that I've shared through the Google Classroom that became necessary as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the shutdown of our university. And so we are going to quickly recap information systems and how to formulate research topics or questions. These are the main things we achieved before the closure of the university. Alright, so we will progress from that point, looking at access. That is the pillar 2 or standard 2 of information literacy. We'll look at how to access online information. We'll, under that topic, look at what the internet is by characteristics, what applications or services are available, how we connect to the internet, and how to navigate the website. And then particularly for searching through academic databases, I'll be exploring with you some tools that are particularly useful in online searching. And we will look at how we can deal with our topics, how to orientate ourselves, focusing the topic, developing a search strategy for advanced searching in databases. Now, advanced searching has to do with Boolean logic, and so we'll be looking critically at the three main Boolean operators, the AND, OR, and NOT. But other functions that are used in search engines will also be explored, particularly the exact phrase searching, truncation, wildcards. We'll look at how all these are used to help us actually narrow our results and get the most relevant items. So let's start with a recap of what we did before the closure. Alright, so information systems, as we looked at, like any other system, which we are already familiar with as science students. We have done biological systems such as integumentary systems. We have looked at circulatory systems. We have looked at respiratory systems, digestive systems. All these systems, we can even go into broader and more abstract areas like education system, health system. Anytime we mention system, our mind comes on one thing, that it is a transforming environment. And to transform something, you need to first take the thing in its raw form, apply processes of change, and then get an expected output. And so anything called system actually must be subject or obey this IPO model, this input process output model. Now, in terms of information systems, the elements that actually constitute a system are first people. These people are the end users. The end users who follow procedure or manuals to actually handle hardware or the tangible aspects of the computer system that allows them to manipulate software and data to provide the needed information. Manipulating data using software means that we are transforming our raw ideas or raw data that we have collected. It could come in many forms: texts, it could be opinion data that we take through interviews, it could be numerical data that we collect when we conduct our research or interviews in the field, or surveys, or whatever instrument we use. Then using the computer's ability to connect and transmit data or share common resources with other computer or electronic devices, we are able to transmit or share or disseminate whatever information we process. It is important, however, to look at what happens if you take out people and data. People bring the data, which are the raw materials, to the computer system for processing. You will see the rest of the elements left can simply be considered the computer subsystem of the information system. And so this particular module can be summarized as human-computer interaction. So what we are going to do basically is about how people can interact with computers to draw knowledge resources that are presented over the internet. We looked at information processing cycle, in which we try to understand how the computer and human beings work together to achieve information. And we looked at the input, processing, storage, output, and dissemination stages as the 5 main phases that data passes to be transformed into information and gets shared. Don't forget, the reason for including dissemination is because we believe that one of the important theories of communication is information is not yet completed if it is not shared. Because one of the definitions of information is to inform. To inform means to bring to knowledge whatever you have. So if you finish processing your data and you never share it to anyone, we cannot say you actually have information. The cycle is not completed. But interestingly, the moment you share, whatever output or final result or information that you have shared actually becomes someone else's or the recipient's data for another cycle of processing. For example, when we do literature reviews, we read people's final output, research articles, textbooks, and any other source, web pages. These are outputs or information that people have shared. But the reason we were actually exploring these sources were to find certain basic knowledge items that we can merge, analyze, and transform in any way that suits our processing or our new knowledge that we are creating. So yes, at one point, what we are looking for is the finished product of someone else, but during that process, we are now generating new knowledge, and so it becomes data or input to our process of knowledge generation. And we looked at the input stage where data in forms of text, numbers, images, sound, or any other multimedia, and programs for manipulating the data are actually loaded into the computer using input devices such as the mouse, keyboard. You could even use CD-ROMs, pen drives. Now it is even possible to use your voice, microphone. We know that for those using Windows 10 and later, Microsoft even now has Cortana to help you with voice searching and all of that. Then the processing stage is where the computer's central processing unit comes to work. When you load the programs and the data into your computer, the processor works together with the random access memory in an environment that is generally referred to as the central processing unit, and they decide, depending on the kind of data you put there, whether it's going to be a logical or arithmetic analysis, and whatever is done based on your instructions and manipulation of whatever program, Word, Excel, etc., that you are using to present and to arrange or organize your data, they give you results which are held in a temporary memory first in the RAM. But when you want a permanent storage, you will have to intentionally or deliberately do your storage into either the computer's internal hard drive or on any external hard drive, or even other storage media. I've seen that the popular thing among students nowadays is to even store on the SD card or even internal memory of their smartphones. Very interesting. But once you store information, it means you can have later access. Usually, output means how we bring the information out. And at the storage level, in fact, there are devices that function both as output and input. For example, if you take your pen drive, you have stored your information there, but the same pen drive which has stored the information is not only a storage medium. It can be used to put in your data or information into a computer system for further analysis, and it can also be used to take out whatever process information you have from the system and then share it. But while you are doing your processing, you could also decide to view your results on the screen, which is what is usually done. But also, what if you want a hard copy? For example, you want to print a letter to the registrar. Yes, you can use a printer for a hard copy. All these are output forms or mechanisms. But once you have got your output, it means you have the intention to share. And so that letter or that statistics or presentation, whatever it is presented, given out. That is dissemination. And once you have given out that information, it becomes input into another level of processing. And so, for example, when students write undertaking to pay part of their fees and complete the payment later, they are asking permission from the registrar to be allowed to register their courses and all of that. Yes, you went through all these processes to put your ideas into a Microsoft Word program, which finally you printed out and then you shared by sending to the office of the registrar. That final information that you have presented is actually just an input to the registrar's decision process, whether to grant your permission or not, depending on the content and whatever other protocols are available. Now, we looked at computer systems in terms of networking, and we understood that computers also communicate. And to communicate, we must find a way of linking them, connecting them, either via wired networking or wirelessly. And we looked at what happens when computers are so connected. That yes, every single device, computers, photocopiers, cameras, whatever it is, electronic device that is connected on a particular network, these are called nodes. And in a real networking environment, these nodes are either clients or hosts. But it's also possible to connect two devices in which none of them is a server or host and the other a client, but they are just peers exchanging information or data. For example, if we do a Bluetooth or Xender connection between our two smartphones, Android phones, and we share files such as audio or music, we share short videos, or we even share files such as our lecture notes or presentations. In such a case, you cannot say one of the phones is a server or host and the other is a client. No. But in the real world of networking, especially in the widest or largest network ever on earth, the internet, you have specialized computers which are host computers or servers, while the ones that we use, like our laptops and phones and whatever, tablets, to try and Google and get something out, can be called clients because they are requesting to be served with information. Now, networks are classified using different protocols, but the common one that we are going to look at is the classification of networks by their size or geographical scope. And we have personal networks, or PANs. These are the smallest networks you can form. For example, connecting your phone to your computer to share files and whatever. That's a personal area network. It is something that is within the reach of a person's body. Even when we connect in a classroom situation, connect a laptop to a projector and maybe connect wirelessly via Bluetooth or via Wi-Fi our Android phone to remotely control the computer, or to change the slides, or even use a pointer. These kinds of connections are our personal area networks. Now, a local area network is much larger and involves several computers and can span a number of blocks, but within the same geographical area. For example, if you take any of our campuses, either the Trafalgar campus, the Davao or Southern campus, and then the permanent site or Sokode campus, those constitutes unique geographical areas where at least you can see a few blocks apart, you can see people around, you can move from one office to the other, but where it is not possible to stand at one and shout to the other. No, you can be in the library and send an email to the office of the registrar if you don't want to walk across. So when we create such a network of computers and other electronic devices, including telephones and the rest, we call that a local area network. Now, bigger than a local area network is a metropolitan area. For example, taking the whole of Ho together, where the HTU, that's Hotenka University, UHAS, Vodafone, MTN, all these organizations have their own networks. Collectively, these form a metropolitan area network. Now, bigger than a metropolitan, you can have a regional, like Volta region network. You can have a subcontinental network, like West Africa network. You can have a continental Africa, and it grows and grows. And so, instead of saying national, international, subcontinental, regional, which all are wide area networks, we simply use the one, WAN, wide area network, to represent anything bigger than a metropolitan area network. And so you can see how the internet is the widest wide area network, because it's a global collection of all computer networks. Now, internet is actually derived from internetwork or internetworking. What it means is that, yes, if we have a local area network at Davao, another local area network at Trafalgar, and a local area network at Sokode, it is possible to interlink these networks. Now, the difference here is, first, the computer network at Davao or Trafalgar or at Sokode constitutes interlinkages between communication devices only on that campus. That forms a network or a local area network. So at this point, only devices have been connected to form that network. But it is possible to interlink such a connection of devices with another connection of devices that becomes internetworking. And so the ability to link networks to other networks and to other networks almost infinitely until the entire globe is connected is generally what we call internetworking. And the internet, capital I, has actually assumed its proper noun status because it is believed that there cannot be a repeat of such a global connection. Well, some experts suggest that perhaps in the future we can think of interplanetary networks, but on Earth here it is not possible to replicate the internet because all the computer networks have been connected already. Which ones are there to reconnect to compete with what you usually call the internet? So the internet is a global connection of all computer networks. Now, in Information Literacy Standard 1 or Pillar 1, which talks about how to know the extent and amount of information needed, we looked at how we can identify information need for the conduct of research. And we said that all these needs actually start from a problem. Problems or questions help us to identify the need for information and how to locate the needed information to solve the problems. And we said we can achieve this through observation or by looking at gaps in knowledge. When we follow a particular area of knowledge for a long time, for example, if you get interested in malaria, you keep reading malaria articles and then you observe that there seems to be a gap. Perhaps most of the writings are about treatments, control, and all these measures, but not much is being done in the area of prevention. That is a knowledge gap that you might want to conduct research to fill. But the entire process of your background knowledge, collecting of data, analyzing it, and everything that you do to be able to arrive at a conclusion is what constitutes research. Now we looked at how to develop questions, and we used some useful mnemonics like the PICO, P-I-C-O, and another PICO, P-I, and then the C with a small O. We try to explain which of these are aligned to quantitative research, which of them are useful for qualitative research, and we explore the kinds of research that are usually done in the field of medicine and health sciences. And so I'll quickly just go through them, but don't forget the links that I have shared. I picked most of these mnemonics and their explanations from the Joanna Briggs Institute, and if you look at the bottom of each of these slides, I have actually placed the URL, the specific URL to a particular mnemonic, so you can visit this URL to read more to understand what it is. Now, I used the Joanna Briggs Institute, the JBI, examples from a systematic review to get you to understand using color codes. But again, under each of these JBI examples, I have also created my own question that I expect you to analyze and see if you can identify the various elements in the mnemonic. For example, in effectiveness studies using PICO, P-I-C-O. Joanna Briggs Institute document gives this sample question, say, are non-pharmacological interventions compared with control interventions, that is usual care, effective in reducing depressive symptoms of older adults with depressive disorders? Now you can see by the color codes which of them is P. For example, older adults with depressive disorders is a population. Now population here is any demographic characteristic that you choose to explore. So whether it is people in a particular area, a particular age group, any of those demographics constitutes your P. Or instead of people, you could even say patients, depending on your kind of topic or question that you're asking. And then for intervention, non-pharmacological interventions, that's how they put it. Then control interventions is a comparator or comparison, and depressive symptoms is the outcome. But I believe there's something wrong here. I think the outcome that we are looking for is reducing depressive symptoms. That should be the outcome. So reducing should have been part of this color code. I think that was a mistake. All right, now my own question that I formulated for you to look at is: music therapy more effective than psychotic drugs in controlling manic behavior in patients with bipolar disorder? So that's a question you may want to explore. Well, interestingly, I picked this question actually from some biblical reading on the first king of Israel, King Saul. We understand that an evil spirit disturbed him, and when David, the newly anointed king, played music, the spirit actually left him, and he regained his senses. Then afterwards, things happen. He tries to after them. So we are looking at music therapy as a means of controlling or toning down manic behavior in patients that have bipolar disorder. Alright, so can you try it? Can you identify what the population is, what the intervention is, what the comparison or comparator is, and what the outcome? Let's try it. Music therapy, I believe that's the intervention. Then psychotic drugs are the comparator. or comparison. Then patients with bipolar disorder can be seen as a population of patients, and the outcome should be controlling manic behavior. Controlling, or we could use reducing or taming, or whatever you want to use here. I just formulated it on top of my head. Alright. Qualitative studies use the second PICO, that's the PICO with this PI and C with a small O, standing for context, not comparator and outcome. And so, for example, with the JBI, they asked what is the experience of recovering from burns injuries in adults, that is over 18 years of age patients, during their stay in a hospital burns care unit. Now you can see by the color codes that the orange, which is hospital burns care unit, is the context. The red, adult patients, is the population, and experience of recovering from burns injuries is the phenomenon of interest. So in this PICO, it is not population, intervention, comparator and outcome, but it is population, phenomenon of interest. The I, interest, is the one that is emphasized, and then context. That is, if you are doing a qualitative study, very useful. And so I also gave my example for you to explore. What are the lived experiences of Ghanaian women with obstetric fistula? Interesting question. So your phenomenon of interest is lived experiences of Ghanaian women with obstetric fistula. That is your interest. Population, Ghanaian women with obstetric fistula. Context, Ghana. Does that make sense? It's just to let you see how sometimes when we say these mnemonics are useful in creating the topic, it does not mean that each of them must stand out uniquely or separate from the other elements. Sometimes in just a phrase, all the elements can be present. For example, as you could see, the entire phenomenon of interest is taken from lived experiences. That is the noun, the whole noun phrase, lived experiences of Ghanaian women with obstetric fistula. That constitutes the phenomenon of interest. But within that whole noun phrase, you can still see the population, Ghanaian women with obstetric fistula, and you can see the context, Ghana, as in Ghanaian women, so Ghana. So all these three are encapsulated in just one noun phrase. I hope you got what I was trying to explain. And also remember that you do not need every single one of the elements in these mnemonics to be present in a particular question to qualify as a complete research question. Alright, you can explore the rest, and remember I have always included the specific web pages where you can find more examples and explanation of further information on these. But very important to complete our recap of our classroom face-to-face interactions is this new slide that I actually introduced, slide number 25. You can check. I actually updated your course reps to share this with you. I recently found an interesting research guide from University of Southern California that actually details your entire research experience, giving useful information on how to take your research step by step or phase by phase. So it gives you the types of research design, how to choose a research problem, preparing to write, how your abstract is constructed, introduction, literature review, methodology, results, discussion. In fact, it gives you information on every stage. And so for those of you who are in level 300, or those of you even in 100 who have started working on assignments in research and who have already started identifying a topic that you think you might be interested in researching in your final year, very interesting to start looking at what each of these elements is. I remember I helped a colleague last to write his research problem, That is one area many people do not know exactly what to do. That would be an interesting thing. Look at choosing a research problem, how it comes about. And literature review, how do you write a literature review or do a literature review? Citing sources, very interesting. I'll actually be including a video on how to use Mendeley to manage your references or citations. So please take a look at this newly introduced slide number 25. All right.